but the other one's close behind it. And I just got reminded that we do need to start our recording. Thank you, Garrett. Looks like we're all set. Okay, so I have one final question and then we'll move on. This one we couldn't do via polling, but would love for you to enter in the chat. First things first is, what was your favorite snack in an after-school program growing up? So what was your favorite snack that you hoped to get? And I know we're talking some time ago, so it doesn't have to necessarily be healthy, but what was your favorite snack when you were a participant in an after-school program? And just go ahead and throw that in the chat and we'll have some fun reading over those. Seeing a lot of peanut butter theme through here, some peanut butter and jelly bars, Uncrustables, Twinkies, a classic. Love the response. All right, folks, well, those will keep filtering in. Once those die down, we would love at some point during this meeting, if you wouldn't mind just go ahead and throwing in your name and the organization you're with. If you would like to share your email, feel free to put that in there. We always look at these as opportunities to connect with one another. So we'll give this another minute or so for people to put in their snack options. We'll have that recorded in the official record here. But then if you don't mind throwing in your name, your organization, and if you'd like to share your email with the group, that would be terrific. Well, thanks everyone. Just a bit of fun there to get us started. And really what we want to look at is those are all some sort of partnership. It's either a partnership with your beverage, how you see toppings complement each other, a trait that you work with, and really meant to be some fun, but also what we wanted to look at is there's certain partnerships or collaborations that work and there's other ones that just don't. And that can be scalable based on your community or your organization or who you're working with. So we're going to spend some time today sharing a partnership structure that works for us here in Healdsburg. May not work for every organization, but what we're hoping is to share this as a bit of a case study of how it's worked for us, how we've built this over time. But then more importantly, we want to have a dialogue with all of you about, we want to hear some of the partnerships you've established. And then hopefully this is a takeaway that you can take back to your community, maybe a starting point to start a new collaboration or partnership within your community back at home. So we'll move back into the presentation here. I will share, I know that we have representation from all over the state. So one thing I forgot to mention, we're from the city of Healdsburg, which if you're not familiar, we're about 70 miles north of San Francisco. We're a town of just under 12,000 people population. We're up here in what's deemed wine country, have some smaller communities around us. Yeah, that's a bit about where we are. So what we're going to be doing this morning, we've gone through introductions. We're going to give you a brief background and overview on our partnership as a city municipality organization and our partnership with the local school district here, about how that started and where we are today. We're going to give an overview of our after-school program, which really is that key program that we offer in partnership with the school district. We're then going to go into a breakout session because we want to hear back from all of you, get some ideas and be inspired by your partnerships you're doing back home. We're then going to spend some time of how our team and in partnership with not only a school district, but another organization pivoted during this last year. As we know, all of you had to do, everyone had to change their model of service delivery over the last year. So we will share our story. We'll then go into a breakout to hear more from you. And then finally, at the end, we'll have time for question and answer and just an open discussion. So that is our plan for the morning. Just a few reminders. You all came in, you were muted. You will have the ability to unmute yourself, but we ask when you're not presenting, just keep that mute button on. If you have questions, feel free to use the blue icon to raise your hand or throw a question in the chat. We'll be monitoring that as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Themick to talk about our partnership with the school district.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you all for joining us today. I believe that Healdsburg has somewhat of a unique relationship with our school district in that we really do view ourselves as one community, and we work every day to ensure that we're trying to work together and collaboratively on this That doesn't exist in every organization, I know, but here it does, and we're fortunate to share some of our experiences and how we put that to work for our community. Next slide, please. So we have 4 major focus areas, 3 major ones, and then 1 kind of supplemental that covers a number of different areas. We have 3 major agreements with our school district. The first is a joint facilities use agreement. I'll talk about each one of these individually. The second is a swim center use agreement, where the district owns the swimming pool and it's open to the community through this agreement. We have our ACES partnership, which Garrett and Rich will talk more about during this presentation. And then we have other examples of how we've worked together. One example was that the city purchased a former school that shut down because of declining enrollment and converted that into a community center. So we'll talk about each one of these in a bit more detail. Next slide, please. So our joint facilities use agreement was enacted in 2012. And it is a comprehensive agreement that covers all city facilities and all school district facilities. And it provides each entity access to those facilities of the other entity at no charge. And that's really an important concept here. The thought behind this is that these are all the community facilities. The community pays for all of them. So for the city to charge a school district and the school district to charge the city back for usage doesn't make a whole lot of sense, since there really are the community facilities. The agreement also establishes scheduling priorities. So common sense, school district has priority of their facilities during their needs. So whether it's school or extracurricular, and the city has priority for use of its facilities during its primary use times. When they're not in use, they are available for the community through each other's organizations. So for example, the school district doesn't have a boardroom, so they use the city council chambers. We don't have synthetic turf in our park system, so we're able to use the school district's new synthetic turf. And again, at no charge. One of the unique arrangements that we have is we actually schedule all the school district facilities outside of school use. So once they conclude their extracurricular sports or other activities, then we pick up all the scheduling in evenings and weekends and all summer and schedule those on behalf of the school district. We also share some maintenance responsibilities. We actually provide all the contracted mowing and landscaping services for the school district facilities. We coordinate all of that, we pay for that, and then the district reimburses the city for those costs that we incur as a result of that work that's being done. Really the goal behind all of this, again, is to make this seamless. They are all community facilities, so we want the community to view these seamlessly as available to them outside of the respective agency's use. Next slide, please. Swim center agreement's a little bit unique. For years, the city owned the swim center, even though it was located on school district property. So back in about 2014, there was a transition of this ownership, and the city actually gave the swim center back to the school district. Now, I'm not sure the school district actually wanted it because it is an older facility. It has some fairly significant maintenance obligations long-term, but that was part of the relationship, and it had to do with the city taking ownership of the former school as well. So this is kind of this swap of facilities. What's unique about this is it provides community access to a district facility, again, at no charge. Part of this is a cost sharing agreement where the district pays for the operational costs of the pool during the school year, and the city pays for the operational costs of the pool during the summertime. The revenue that we generate offsets those costs. So we operate the pool during the school year on behalf of the school district. The revenue that we generate offsets their operating costs. And obviously during the summertime, the same situation. We also have some maintenance responsibilities, but really the major focus area for maintenance lies with the school district for the pool. We cover cleaning and things like that during our operations, but the district has the overall capital expenditures. And that is an issue that we're dealing with right now because the pool is aging, has some fairly significant maintenance needs, and we're going to be figuring out how to work together to address those moving forward. Next slide, please. The ACES partnership, which you're going to hear more about today, is somewhat unique. In most communities in Sonoma County, the ACES program is run through the Boys and Girls Club. Here it's run through the city. under an annual memo of understanding. It was actually hosted at the community center site for a number of years. And then in the 2018-2019 school year, we moved it to the schools, mostly to become more connected with the teachers. Even though the teachers were involved when it was at the community center, they weren't as involved as it is when it's at their current site. The ACES grant funds the majority of the direct operating costs, and the city funds the overhead. So our full-time staffing, things like that go into coordination. We do work very collaboratively on the planning and the implementation and the ongoing monitoring of the program. And that was exceptionally evident during COVID when we were at the table of the school district on a regular basis, sometimes once a week, sometimes more. We had teachers checking in to make sure the program was going well, or as well as it could during COVID. And Garrett and Rich will talk a bit more about that. Next slide, thank you. So there's other examples of partnerships that we have. The Foss Creek Elementary School, that was an arrangement where the city actually purchased the school from the district because of declining enrollment, converted it into a community center. It continues to thrive today. The city has participated in tennis court reconstruction in the past. That was several years ago. We operate the swimming pool for the high school swim team, so we provide lifeguards and we provide staffing for that during the swim season. And then we're working together on an ongoing basis as we look towards the future. As the district was planning their new synthetic soccer field, we were at the table with them talking about how the community could use it. Same thing with new gymnasiums that they recently built. And we're looking right now at a future performing arts facility that will be located on district property, but available to the community through this partnership. And it looks like there is a question from Helen. Do you have district teachers to teach programs or third-party vendors? And we actually have our own staff that do the majority of our program delivery. So we have part-time and full-time staff that actually work and deliver, for example, the ACES program, but we work really closely with the teachers in delivery of those different programs. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show an example of the benefit that our partnership has. And this is an analysis we did as it related to park development fees. We did an analysis of, because of our partnership, how much our school district facilities, and these are only outdoor facilities, and they don't include those with lights. We have more with lights now, but how much they're open to the community. And our elementary schools are open about 58% of the available time is available for the community. The balance of that, the 42%, is used by the school district. Our high school, a bit less because they have extended programs during the day. That's about 54%. So because of these partnerships at no additional cost to either entity, the community benefits significantly from the availability of these facilities. And I believe that's the end of my section. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We're going to turn it over to Garrett Perdigo, our recreation supervisor, who's going to talk about that, the framework and the structure of our after-school program. So Garrett, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dave, and thank you again for everyone for joining in today and kind of wanting to hear more about our collaborative partnerships and how they may be able to be echoed in your community as well. So I imagine some of you are familiar with the ACES grant, After School Education and Safety. I want to give you a little bit of background about our ACES program here in Healdsburg, just so you have a little bit of background of what we were working with and how our partnership was kind of changed via COVID and how we were able to adapt to help serve the school district and our community at large. So next slide, please. So overall, start with the basics of the goals of the ACES grant. And that goal is to provide a safe and educationally enriching alternative for children during their non-school hours. We want to contribute to student academic improvement by providing academic support as well as activities which are aligned with the school day. And lastly, we want to contribute to the reduction of risk factors such as poor academic achievement, social and emotional factors to foster students' success in school. And you see here in the photo, we have a photo of one of our staff working with students during their homework time. Just one of the many areas of help they get during our program, kind of from the hours of 2 to 6 p.m. on a daily basis. So as I mentioned, ACES, After School Education and Safety Grant, is how we're funded for this program. Mark had mentioned previously that our location switched from the community center to the school site with the adoption of the current MOU that we're currently in. So those locations are the Healdsburg Elementary School, which we refer to as HES, and that serves TK to second grade. That is on the school campus from the end of the school day till 6 p.m., 5 days a week. These numbers I'm giving you are from our last full school year that we ran pre-COVID. Just since we had that interruption, I at least wanted to give our full numbers from a full year. Our third grade through fifth grade is at the Fitch Mountain School campus. That's grades 3 through 5. And then we have the junior high located at the junior high school campus. You see the attendance requirements change through there. Those of you who work with ACES grants know that based off of junior high and grade school, the requirements are a bit different. So that's why you see an attendance requirement difference there. The enrollment, which we'll get to in a little bit, really is bigger in the TK and the junior high. The junior high program, we've seen a swing up in the last few years. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, historically located here at the community center, the program was moved to the district site at the renewal of our agreement for the 18-19 school year. Overall, the move was beneficial for the students because, as Mark mentioned, it gave access to the teachers in an after-school setting for our students. It allowed our staff to be able to get additional help for the students. If we were doing homework time, we didn't have to worry about a student forgetting their homework in their classroom. We had access to go back and grab it. And overall, aside from the benefit to the students on campus, it was a big factor for the parents. As you saw in the previous slide, our number in the TK through second grade numbers were our highest. A large number of those were TK and kinder, and parents noted that they liked the fact that we were on campus. We had a staff member there to pick their students up when they got out of class. We could walk them to our classroom for the day. They didn't have to worry about them being transported on a bus and worry about their 5-year-old getting on the wrong bus, getting dropped off at the wrong location. It was just a little extra sense of security. Next slide, please. So the program is offered at no charge to participants of Healdsburg Elementary School. This is kind of a moving piece of information. So charter students, there was a fee for the semester. However, if the students qualified for free or reduced lunch, then they attended the program for no charge. That is kind of shifting with our school district. They have changed their kind of structure, and they've removed the charter school. So therefore, ongoing, all students would fall under the free attendance portion of this. Parents sign an agreement regarding their attendance requirements that they have to be there from the end of school day until 6 p.m. each day. The kids are signed in by our staff, and then they are signed out by parents each day. We then take those rosters each month. We turn them into the school district. They are audited, and that's kind of how the funding structure gets worked out to figure out how much money is given to us as the partner. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of an overview of the quality standards for expanded learning. The points of service standards, we're looking to have a safe and supportive environment, active and engaged. We're looking to have some skill building for the students. We want to give them a voice and teach them how to be leaders. We want to give them healthy choices, learn healthy choices, and we want to have a diverse access and equity in the program. The standards we're looking to achieve is we're always looking to have quality staff. We're looking to always have a clear vision and mission to the program. We're always looking for new collaborative partnerships, and I'll touch on some of the ones we have. Mark touched on our kind of organizational ones, but within the ACES program itself, we also have partnerships that we do for the students in the program. Our CQI, the continuous quality improvement, our program management, and always looking at sustainability and how we can keep the program going, how we can always serve the most number of members of our community as possible. Next slide, please. So what are we doing? We're working on skill building. We're working with a physical education curriculum. We are very team oriented, making sure that even in the after school setting, as you can see in the bottom photo, we're doing projects with the kids to help them kind of learn how to work as a team, work together, and we're implementing STEAM programs. We're always, like I mentioned, looking for quality staff. We're always doing ongoing professional development for our staff, doing weekly team meetings, training provided by the Child Development and Youth Integrated Services, who oversees our grant. We're always looking to get feedback from staff. We're always trying to do parent surveys to find out from them how their program's going, what we can do to improve it, and just always looking for new opportunities to make our program better while not losing any of the quality of the program. One thing we did start introducing at the end of our last full school year was we started trying to introduce clubs to the students. You know, are students interested in cooking? Are they interested in learning a new skill? You know, we introduced a sewing class into our program, and I have a photo of that next. But always looking for ways that we can reach the students and help them kind of learn something or get into an activity that they may not have had an opportunity to do had they not been in our program before. Next slide, please. So our collaborative partnerships that we have within the program. You see here we have a photo on the bottom that is a student working with our sewing instructor. That instructor would come in once a week. She'd work with 5 students for a period of time. We work with the Sonoma County Mobile Library. They would come around campus about once every 1 to 2 months. The students would get to take some books home with them. It's free of charge. They get to take them home. They get to read them here. They get to read with their parents, and then next time it comes, they can get some more books. We have a local performance art theater, and they came and talked to our students about the opportunities at their theater that would allow them to get into dance classes, acting classes, voice classes. Before the COVID shutdown, we were planning a program where they were actually going to come into the program and teach the students. That is still going to be a partnership we're going to look to expand as we get out of COVID in the next year, but that one was one that stalled out. We also, for our junior high students, brought in a Importance of Education in College seminar. We ran this after hours where we invited parents and students to stick around, and they got to kind of learn the importance of furthering your education through high school, going to college. The representative came from our local junior college, and he helped the students develop a 10-year plan and help kind of determine what their goals might be if they wanted to continue on. Next slide, please. Looks like that's the end of my session.
All right, and before we go into our breakout, I do see that there are quite a few questions in the chat, so we want to pause for a moment. I'm going to drop the screen down so we can see everyone and I can see the chat a bit better. And take a minute to answer some of those questions. So just a second, let me go ahead and pull those up. All right, and Mark and team, catch me if this isn't the, I saw the question from Helen, and then another question from Helen is what system are you using? And Helen, I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself. If you want to clarify the system that you're referencing, we'd be happy to answer in a bit more detail.
Dave, I think it was the tracking for payments, I believe, and registration and those kinds of things.
Yeah, Garrett, you want to answer on our current, how we handle registration in our software system?
Yeah, so currently registration, we have a recreation software, we use ActiveNet. That is how we track registration and payments and everything. In terms of the tracking of rosters with the school district, we are a bit still stuck in the past. We still will have paper rosters. We turn them into the school district. We track them all via spreadsheet, which we then submit for auditing at the school district. And then once they confirm our numbers, we then work with our finance team to invoice them for the ACES money that is allotted to us. But in terms of registration, we go through our ActiveNet software. Pre-COVID, I was looking at a software where students would come in. It actually was going to be fingerprint based, so the students would come in, scan their fingerprint. It would track all rosters and sign-ins through there, and then parents would come in and sign them out via a touchscreen, whether it be an iPad or a phone on site.
Thanks, Garrett. And I apologize, Helen, I had it so you couldn't unmute yourself. So sorry if you were trying to answer me there. And the next question here from Luis, why have a fee-based program at all? So Garrett, I know you alluded to that, but you want to kind of share the evolution of the charter system and where we are today.
Yeah, so what we saw with the charter system was, so initially for the charter students coming from the school district, they are under a different umbrella. They're not actually covered by the grant itself. The ACES grant only covers elementary school students, not charter students. The other part of it, so by charging a fee, it helped us kind of cover costs for having additional students. The other part of it is by signing up for the ACES grant, if you're under the elementary school process, you're required to be there for a certain number of hours. You're required to be there from the end of school day until 6 p.m. every day. If you're paying a fee, you're attending the after-school program, but you're not under the ACES grant funding. Therefore, it gives you the freedom that if you don't need your child to be there till 6 p.m. every day, you could have them there from 2:30 and you could pick them up at 4. You could leave until 6 if you wanted to, but it gave you more flexibility. And we did have some families take us up on that. I will say that I did mention that if students were free or reduced and they went to the charter school, they could attend for free. That was still the vast majority of our participants. So we didn't want to totally alienate families if they were charter, if they were still low income. So we found a way to make it work for those families as well.
Looks like our next question from Ronald is about family engagement. How do we engage the families in our program? I think that came in around the quality management, making sure we're offering a program that meets their needs, and it's good for our participants.
Yeah, so historically what we did, again, pre-COVID, which the section is highlighting, is we used to do, when we were here at the community center, we used to do basically open house nights, sort of like students would have at school, where parents could go attend, they could meet with the teachers. We would do something similar where parents could come in, we would host kind of a large group session for them to ask questions to us. They could go to their kids' classrooms and they could talk to our staff directly. It kind of helped us build that relationship with them. So if there were issues that were coming up at home that the parents wanted us to be aware of, they then knew our staff and were comfortable to approach them. It allowed our staff to be comfortable with the parents and just really helped bridge that gap. With our move to the school district sites, we were still working with something similar. It wasn't obviously as grand, since when we were here at the school district, we had, or when we were here on campus at the community center, we had all, 100, 125 kids here. We could reach all families at one time. So we did work to do similar things on the school sites in a smaller fashion. When we did branch out, we kind of assigned each school site a site lead, and that lead is mainly responsible for having that parent connection and making sure that we're meeting the needs of everyone in the program.
Great, and a couple more questions. I'll lump a few of these together as I see that they're, well, first we'll do the, for the youth that are not meeting the free or reduced lunch status, how do we cover their costs? Does that come from outside grants? And Garrett, I can take the first part of this and correct, feel free to jump in. As we do receive, so as part of the ACES program, we receive, or I should say, excuse me, the school district receives funding through the ACES program. So that is a state-funded grant that covers the direct costs of the program. We cover the overhead, and by we, the city, comes from our budget. Our department is funded a little bit differently than other cities, maybe throughout the state. The majority of our operating budget comes from what we call the transient occupancy tax, or that's the tax that people pay when they stay at a hotel in town. So a percentage of that goes to fund our budget, which we then put directly back into the community. So during a normal year, we've identified the after-school program as one of our key focus areas. So we make sure that we're covering those overhead costs. I will share, and we'll get to this a bit later, this last year, we obviously had to get creative with our funding mechanisms, as hotel tax, as you can imagine, was way down or most of the year non-existent. So we had to look at other opportunities to keep this program up and running through COVID, but that will be part 2 of the presentation. And then we had a question here about other programs in there. So programs for parents, family, literacy, health, and there's also a question about how much the programs cost. So I'll first start. This is just one area that our department works in. So we, in addition to the after school program, we do offer a full slate of programs for anywhere from preschool up to senior citizens. As we say, we're an age-friendly community. So whether you're 2 or 102, we have a program for you here. But these questions may be about the individual classes being offered in the after school program. So Garrett, do you want to talk a little bit about how we bring these instructors in? Is there a charge to students, our partnership with that one? Yeah,
so we've been very lucky. So far, the partnerships that we have had, they've been no cost to us at the program. As mentioned with our funding structure, like with the sewing instructor, we would pay her a fee to come in and teach the students. But other than that, the having like the library come, that's a free service. Having programs for parents and families, that's not, we would work with the school district where they have programs in place to help families out. In terms of like health and nutrition, we work with the local food pantry here on site. We would have kids go out and they would do gleaning in the garden. They would do healthy cooking classes with the director there at the program. And as another thing that kind of helped families and parents in the community, one of our partners is Corazon Healdsburg. And with our move off-site, it opened up our classrooms here since we are housed at, as Mark mentioned, the old school site, which is now our community center. And we, pre-COVID, had some Santa Rosa Junior College classes here, which included things like ESL classes. There were gardening classes and kind of like financial classes to help families figure out finances and kind of get set on the right track. So that was another benefit of us being able to move offsite of freed up rooms here to help us kind of have opportunities for families in the community, not necessarily all in ACEs, but an avenue that was available for them.
Yeah, Andrew, I think that was a really good question, and it's something that has opened our eyes and opened the doors to some new programs. Is in working closely with the families in our after school program, we learned that there was not just student needs, but whole family needs. And so by building that relationship, we realized that there was this need for the parents in order to help their students succeed. Some of them, hadn't completed hadn't received their high school diploma. So setting up GED programs, as Garrett mentioned, English as a second language, in order to help them continue in their career, but also help their students at home as they progress through the school system. So great question. And then the last one here that we have is about how did the collaboration start between the city and the school district? And Mark, I'll let you field that one.
Sure, thank you. To be honest, prior to my time, my predecessor was looking for ways to bring activities to this newly acquired former elementary school community center. And so he approached the school district about the idea of taking over the ACES program. And that was really where it originated. And it did well for a few years. I came to the city in 2015, and we continued to grow in that philosophy of we are stronger together. So our partnerships have grown not only with the district, but with other nonprofits in town. We have a strong partnership with Corazon Healdsburg, who does Latino outreach and engagement. We have a strong partnership with Healdsburg Center for the Arts. It's really kind of core to our beliefs and the way we do business. We're fortunate, we're a relatively small town at 12,000, extremely busy, but a relatively small town. And so it's not easy to build those partnerships, but those partnerships exist fairly, they're prevalent throughout the community, and we're able to tap into those and really utilize those partnerships for people, for organizations that do things better than we ever could. So it really started with a need to develop activities, and it's continued to grow since then to become really strong and solid. And you're going to hear a bit more about that as we talk about pivoting in COVID and how that transition happened.
Great, thanks, Mark. And so what we'd like to do now, thank you for those questions, and keep them coming, and we'll try to answer as many as we can and stay within our time limit. So before we move into part 2, talking about how we pivoted during COVID, let me pull my screen back up here real quick. We're going to move into some breakout rooms. And so what we'll have here is I think we're going to do 3 breakout rooms. So you'll be in a room with one of our moderators here, and we're going to ask for some feedback from you all. We want to hear about a creative and successful partnership that you may have created in your community. We know that not everyone has gone down that route, or if you have, may not be in the after school realm, and that's totally fine. We just want to hear about a success story you've had collaborating with an outside organization. So tell us a bit about that. With every creation of a partnership, there are some bumps in the road, right? It's 2 organizations coming together for a common good, but 2 different organizations who have different structures. So we want to hear about some of those challenges that you had in the creation of that partnership. And then finally, thinking forward, if you either don't have one, what is a potential partnership that you could have, or what is an additional partnership that you could bring to your community? So I'm going to drop the screen here. And bear with me for just a moment. So you'll be, if you haven't done a Zoom breakout room, what'll happen here is in just a minute, you're going to automatically be shot off randomly to one of 3 rooms. You'll be with Mark, Garrett, or Rich, who will have a conversation with you. I'll be floating around between the rooms. And then we're going to give you about 10 minutes. We think will be good to have a little group discussion. We are going to ask that a participant in each room volunteers to report out when we're done, so that we can hear from you and we're not talking to you the whole time. So think about that, someone that wants to just report out a good example. And yes, thank you for that question. We will have the questions for you in the breakout room, which we should be able to share on the screen. If for any reason we have technical difficulties, the host of that room will have them in front of them and can put them either in the chat or just prompt you all with a discussion. So with that, we are going to break out just a second here. Set this up. Just want to make sure that we've got people going to the right spot. So bear with me for another minute here. Make sure our hosts go to their own rooms. All right, and we should be set. So I'll see you all in about 10 minutes. Have a good conversation, everyone.
And Dave, do we pause the recording?
Yes, I will take care of that. Oh, looks like I sent our host. Just a moment, folks. I sent them a bit early. I'm going to bring them back, and then I'll get you guys all sent off to your own rooms. I'll bring them in after.
By the world and by their peers and community. For example, one project is a t-shirt design. Another one is a cartoon design. And then the last one that we are featuring for this summer is a vision board design, where they're planning for the future and you know what they hope to accomplish. So just a little bit about that. And once again, that's called the Iron Project.
That's terrific. Thank you, Dom. And thank you, Group 2. Rich, anything from room number 3?
Yes. Brad, who was telling us some of the stuff that he's doing at his location, had to drop off. But I'm going to get his info and we're going to send what he had out, put it in the chat and try and share that with everyone. But he was letting us know how, and I didn't get what area he was from, but they have like 72 schools that they run after school programs with, of all different age groups. And then one of the things that was interesting that he was talking about when we were going over the new partnership, new ideas, is with Zoom, we were talking about the teens, trying to get them involved. And with Zoom, they have a program, and it cut out right as he was telling me the name of the program, so I will get that. to where this is open to teens everywhere in the United States. And it is to where you can travel virtually around the world. You can learn things from around the world, just different programming to where teens have the ability to get on with other teens from other areas and keep their education going, let them explore outside of their own school area. I did not, it sounded something like CAN, C-A-N, but I did not get the rest of it. I don't know if anybody else from our room knows which program he's talking about. Ashley, Dave, if you can unmute Ashley. You're still muted, Ashley. Hold on a sec. Dave, do you see her?
Am I unmuted now?
There you go.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, no problem. I think he's talking about the California After School Network, the CAN.
Okay. Yes, that is what he was saying. Now, Ashley, do you know more about that? Because we got cut off as he was talking about it.
Sorry,
There you
I
go.
unmuted myself, so we had to unmute again. I can post the link to their website in the chat box so people can check more information out. I'm not aware of that program, so I was excited to hear more about that, and I'm going to look more into it.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ashley. Thank you, Rich. And thank you to everyone for your participation in the room. I do want to keep us moving. We've got about 25 minutes left in the session and a little bit more material to cover. So with that, again, if you have questions throughout, feel free to throw questions in the chat. We will pause to answer those. And then we do have a little bit more information to discuss as a group here at the end. So without further ado, let me reshare the screen here. And what we're going to spend some time here doing is we shared how the partnership was created with the school district. We shared what we do during a quote unquote normal year. Now, as we all know, things got flipped upside down last year for everybody, every organization. So we know everyone had to pivot over the last year. So we want to talk about and share a model of program that we moved to over the last year, building off of our existing partnership with the school district. So just some images. We launched, and I'll get into a bit more detail here, a distance learning care program. So essentially, at the beginning of COVID, the schools shut down, our after school program shut down. That was late spring of 2020. We moved into the summer and immediately recognized a need, and it was brought to our attention from the community that by not having an after-school program in place or a place for students to go, families didn't have the opportunity to return to work. And for a lot of families in our community, they didn't have the option to work remotely. A lot of them work in service industries or in agriculture where they were not able to work remotely. They still needed to go into their daily jobs, and they needed a place where their children could go safely, to be supervised, but then also complete their distance learning care their distance learning through the schooling in a virtual environment. So what we did is we sat down with our partners at the school district as well as Core Zone Healdsburg, which Garrett mentioned, this organization. They're a partner of the city. They take ownership of outreach to our Latinx population, making sure that they have the services that they need, that they are a partner at the table when there is city discussions and decisions being made that impact our entire community. And they're just a tremendous partner and really helped get this program off the ground, as well as a very key component in the funding piece, which I'll get to shortly. So the overarching goal was to provide a safe place for students to complete their distance learning work or have a place to go while parents had the opportunity to return to work. This took some time to develop. Obviously, there was lots of guidelines in place, being under the after school grant umbrella, that gave us the ability to operate this type of program. We talked with our partners at the state level as well as the school district to make sure that it was within the guidelines, especially very early on in the pandemic. And it was deemed an essential service. And this was something that we were able to expand from after school hours to where we could provide a full day program. So we set up a program that would be Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5:30, where students would come in during the school year. They complete their online learning from about 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., depending on which school they were in. And then once that school day ended, we would move into your more traditional after school timeframe. It certainly wasn't traditional after school programming because of all the guidelines and restrictions, but an enrichment environment for the afternoon format. And one thing that was important for us, as Garrett mentioned, many of our families didn't currently pay for the after school program and did not have the ability to pay for a full day childcare. So we created a registration system that was sliding in scale. It was a tiered system, and essentially our goal from the onset was we would not turn away any family from the program that needed it based on their ability to pay. And I know that may raise some questions. How do you pay for it? And we will get to that here shortly, is how did the funding come into that? So I will turn this over to Rich. Rich is our recreation coordinator and really has from day one been the day-to-day oversight of this program for the last year. So Rich, take it away.
Thank you, Dave. So Camp HBG 2.0 started with a summer camp program to support the families like Dave was talking about. Once school started, we transitioned into the distant learning program with the help from Aaron over at the school district and the teachers there. Like Dave said, we go 7:30 to 5:30. Our schools here get out at, depending on the school, if you are K through 2, you go from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Wednesdays, you get out an hour early. And if you are 3rd through 5th, you go 8 to 10:30, and then you get bused here. We worked with them on how they formed their cohorts at the school, and we tried to keep those cohorts there. Not everybody comes from a classroom there and comes here. Some go home. So what we did is we limited it to 2 of their cohorts can combine to be 1 of our cohorts. We've had 110 participate enrolled. 13 different schools have sent people to us from the area. And then we have our dedicated staff, and we have groups of, we started in summer of groups of 10 to 12. Since the number has gone up, we have some rooms. We do not go over 14, just space-wise and having time to help each kid. We didn't want to go over 14, but most of our rooms are still 10 to 12. Next slide. We have 44 staff between the staff in each room, the people who help support me, and then we have 5 facility attendants who come and either clean before or after the programs are done, and then we have the admin and the coordinators. Hillsburg Unified School District support. This is where it was huge. We get a lot of help from the teachers. They give us, not only do they supply the computers for the kids, their programs are on the computers, their schedules. If anything changes, they have our number to where we can contact them. They can contact that room lead to let us know that this kid has a Spanish class for today that they have to get caught up on at 1 o'clock. So can you get them into that Zoom? And then if we have questions with the kids' schedules, we can contact the teachers. Transportation, because we are here for this program for this last year, they have bused the kids to us. So they go to school, they get out. We have timed releases at each school. the people who come here get released first. They get on buses and come here. So we work with the transportation department. Food services is huge. Luckily at our high school, we have a really good kitchen at our high school, and they provide, before they went back to school, so while it was complete distant learning, they provided morning snack, lunch, and afternoon snack. And that was delivered to us daily. And then we had some of my staff who then delivered it to each room. Now that they're back in school, the school gives them morning snack. They hand them a bagged lunch to bring with them here. So first thing each of the rooms do when they get here is they have lunch. And then we provide afternoon snack. Health and student services, that's the counselors at the school. And we have some students who have special needs, may need counseling sessions, have separate Zooms. We organize those to where it won't affect their class, and we can have one-on-one time with those people. They're really, really good and a major contributor to the program. And then the administration, which is the principals and then Aaron. And without them, this wouldn't work. The principals are very busy, especially trying to, when it was getting back into school, but to prevent it from having teachers come to our site, the principals, if anything was needed here, because teachers weren't supposed to make contact with students. So the principals would come here and they would relay any messages. They would bring over any homework packets. They would check in on any student who may have missed 2 or 3 days and they hadn't heard from them. So the principals at each school were huge and were a huge help to me who had never done this before. And then thanks to Dave, we have a very close collaboration with the Sonoma County Health Department for whenever there is someone who has symptoms or tests positive or a family member who tests positive. Dave takes care of all of that, and we have a very good relationship with them. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in to add one point there. I think it's important to share. It was early on was obviously the concern about making sure that that this was a safe environment. And so working closely with the Sonoma County Health Department, getting the green light to run this program, it was that realization of not if there is a potential exposure, but it's when that happens and how you react to it. So we did, there's no mincing words. There were cases in the program, but we were happy to report that there's no proof of any case spreading from participant to participant. So following the protocols that we put in place in collaboration with the health department, that if there was an incident, a family member, a close contact, that we had strategies in place that enabled that there wasn't any transmission between participants in the program.
So on April 5th is when we transitioned from full-time in-person learning to the hybrid model of them going to school. And we have basically right now, so not everybody went back to school and continued coming here. So right now we are at 96 ever since we're at 94 to 96 students. There's 4 different time structures in school or classrooms that we've got going here. We have 2 different rooms that are non-Hillsburg Unified School District rooms. We have to keep them separate from the Hillsburg Unified School District rooms. One of those rooms is a part-time, kids go to school but have nowhere to go after school. And then one of the rooms is a full-time, kids chose not to go back to school. Families chose not to go back to school. So those are our 2 non-unified school district rooms. And then we have 2 more rooms of Hillsburg Unified that go to school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday till 10:30. And then on Wednesdays, they are here full day. And then we have 5 rooms that are the K through 2 that I said go 4 days a week till noon. And then on Wednesdays, they go till 11. And those are then bussed over here. And then we schedule the rooms accordingly. They do their work. We have, for those who know, like Lexia and Gigi, and so they do their math and their reading after they've had their lunch. Then they'll do their homework packets. If anybody has a specialized Zoom class, we get them on that. And then the remainder of the day is old school camp. Exercise. We try and get them outside, separate. Luckily, we have a good facility where we can have numerous rooms outside, nowhere near each other here. Next slide, please.
All right, Rich, and I'm going to move us through this pretty quickly here. So I want to make sure we have enough time, but we're going to show you just some very quick video clips of a day in the life of our current hybrid model. So, and it is a little on the quieter side, but I think we should be able to hear it.
This is the elementary bus. K through second cohort. Hello. Hi, Sergio.
You guys got your lunch? Good job.
Can you go tell her there's a second bus coming? Hi, guys. You guys got your lunch? Hi, Sammy. You got your lunch? Good. Hi, guys. Hey, put on your mask correctly, please. Hi, hello. So once they come from the bus, they have their lunch, and after they have their lunch, they sit down and they start working on their school programs. We have 2 students per table. And camp counselors here to help them with whatever they need help with. This is room 8. It's these guys' turn to be outside. We have times for each classroom to be outside so that our kids don't mix. This is our non-HUSD room. Our kids that go to different school other than our school district. We have our whiteboard where it tells us kids who need to attend special classes during times. Daily reminders for each student that needs to do additional work. Teachers here to help with extra support. This is the elementary bus. Hi, I'm
Sorry, and Rich, we'll need to move this quickly here. I want to make sure we have some time for our participants to ask some questions here too.
Yeah, and we can speed through this. You guys can see, these are just some of the comments that we've had from parents and students. These go from our summer camp to our distant learning to our hybrid. And basically, it's just how it helps the parents feel safe that their kids are someplace where they're watched and they know they're safe. And then the kids saying how they really like it here because they can be around other kids instead of being home by themselves.
Thanks, Rich. And the last thing I'll add here, and then we'll open it up for Q&A with the session, is we talked about funding. And as I mentioned before, we were lucky enough that we have a partner in Corazon Healdsburg. And as I mentioned early on with our budget situation, we weren't in a position to support this program like we would during a normal year through our operating budget and through that transient occupancy tax. So we had to open it up to the community, tell the story of why this was important to those families, why it was a need, And in return, we saw the generosity of our community pour through. We were able to raise over the span of last year, the $445,000. This was purely through community donations. And what that enabled was for any family to attend, no matter their ability to pay. So whether they could pay $0 up to at cost, it was a sliding scale, but we were able to not turn away any family. So a big thank you goes out to Core Zone Healdsburg and of course, all of our community who stepped up to support this program. And of course, programs like these open doors to the future, new opportunities, new collaborations. But I want to take this opportunity to hear from all of you. You know, do you have some questions about what we've done? We only have about 5 minutes left in the session. We will stick around if there are follow-up questions, but I'll go ahead and drop the screen here. And if there are questions, go ahead if you can and raise you can either throw it in the chat, which we may have a few, or you can use your blue hand. I have selected for people to unmute themselves, but it looks like that's not working for everyone. So looks like early on, Kathy said Santa Barbara Unified. ASIS did the same thing. So awesome job down there in Santa Barbara. Eduardo's got his information in there for looking for if you have some partnerships for STEAM-based programming, reach out to Eduardo there. And from Stephanie, this would be a good question for Richard Garrett. Do you have any outside play ideas that go well with social distancing or that have been a success over the last year? Rich?
One of the advantages that we had is the location that we have with a huge fields and blacktop and numerous different hallways or outdoor areas to play is each cohort, it was easy to keep them apart here. Inside our cohort, we didn't have to remain socially distanced. They have to wear their masks at all times, but each cohort themselves did not have to stay 6 feet apart per our health department, as long as that cohort stayed 6 feet from all the others. So we didn't have to come up with games where we had to stay 6 feet apart of each other inside of the cohort.
Yeah, and yeah, as Rich mentioned one thing, we were an old school campus, so we have a very flexible space out here. So we had access to a garden area, a big field area, a large blacktop area. So a lot of different opportunities there. We did, as Garrett mentioned, we have lots of contract instructors who we partner with. So we did get some input from some of our sports coordinators, how we could safely offer some recreation style sports with the kids while they're in the program. So just really reaching out to the subject matter experts. Misty's mentioning Skills Elastic has some great movement activities. Andrew has some ideas. So one thing as we are running up against it, please, if you have questions in there, I will just share my screen one more time. I want to put our contact information up here. So if you are interested in hearing more detail about the program or partnership ideas, we'd be happy to share that. I do know they're going to make the slide deck available after the conference. But there's our contact information. Any last questions in the chat there? Seeing none, we just want to take this opportunity for you. We know you had about 15, 20 different options to select from. Thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning. We'd hope to hear from you a bit more, but we ran short on time. So again, if you have any follow-up, please feel free to shoot us an email. We'd be happy to chat about our program or any recommendations you have. We are open to that as well. So thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning, sharing your ideas during the breakouts, all of the terrific questions. Thank you very much. Anything else, Mark? Yes.
No, saying goodbye.
Oh.
Bye,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hope you have a good rest of your conference today.
Thanks everyone.